Well, hello there. I'm Vlad, and I don't know anything about synthesizers. Yet, for some reason, I have one right over here. And this one was sent by Thomann and Expressive E. And for some reason, me not knowing anything about synthesizers was the thing that intrigued them, so to speak. And I decided to take on a challenge that I don't know if I can actually fulfill, but we're going to find out together, because I said I'm going to write a song using this Expressive E Osmos, and boy, this thing is different. Now, I'm not completely new to keyboards and pianos and such, because I actually started with classical piano, so I can play a little bit, but this is a whole different level kind of thing. There's a certain song I've been wanting to cover for many years, and I'm going to use this opportunity to do just that. But before we start recording, let's take a look at this keyboard here, or synthesizer. I don't know. Are keyboard players offended if I call a synthesizer a keyboard, and vice versa? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. But there's something really cool about this thing to a guitar player, because on a guitar, when you play a note, usually then do vibrato on it. And what this thing does is I can hit the D note, and then there's kind of two different levels. First of all, I can wiggle any of these notes. But then there's also aftertouch. So I hit a note and then press harder. And there's kind of accentuated effect of whatever kind of preset you're using. To me, this feels so natural. That is really cool. Plus, there's some other controls. You can increase the intensity with this slider. And then there's the good old pitch bend. That is really cool. This is the kind of expression I can really relate to, because I'm a guitar player and I'm used to do those things with hands. This feels surprisingly natural. And besides running the stereo line out of here that I'm using for recording, you can also use this thing to trigger different MIDI instruments on your computer. And we'll probably have to do that as well when we are writing the song, because while the Osmos has a bunch of sounds, it doesn't have like drums, for example. So we are going to use this to trigger those drums. And I have a suspicion that because this is a very dynamic instrument, like light touch, stronger touch, heavier touch, what's the word? I don't know. Yeah, it's a very dynamic instrument, so programming drums could be fun. And in order to get to know the synthesizer, what I did was going through every single preset on this thing and wrote down the ones I liked, just to get an overview of like what's in here and what kind of things it allows me to do. And we're going to go through a few of those just to demonstrate the power of this thing. And we're going to start with something called chord death. If you ever watch the channel, you know that I do synthwave stuff, love that kind of sounds, and this is... I don't know how I can ever return to a normal keyboard anymore. This is so much better. Disco Dawn. And that's fun. You can create cool soundscapes with this as well, like 80s type of stuff. Man, this thing is so freaking inspiring, but I think it's time to just start writing and see what comes out. All right, let's start by recording some drums because I'd rather play to a drum groove than a click track. For some reason, that just works better for me. So let's do this. And what I'm going to do next is to map out the whole drum section using the reference track my sister created, and I'll be back with a fully kind of programmed drum track. Alright, my sister also provided me a kind of chord chart for the intro, and so we're gonna record this kind of heavy pad. Starts with a key B. This thing sounds so freaking epic. You could score like a full Dune movie with it. Alright, I want to have some sort of lead thing, and I'm probably gonna pair two different sounds with this. I found this cool tone called Ghost Voice. And I've come up with this kind of pattern over the chord progression. So I'm going to record that next. Being mainly a guitar player, of course I need to check out whether there's some sort of guitar stuff here going on. And actually upon checking out all of the sounds, I found few which were kind of interesting. And I'd love to double the lead you just heard me record with one of these guitars. A guitar? What? This is kind of cool, but I think there was something even better on my trips to the preset land. It was called the Touch guitar. So... browsing! Whee! Wow, this is kind of cool. It sounds like a weird acoustic guitar to me, but I like that. If I double this with the synthesizer version, we could get like a nice percussive but melodic and kind of wobbly lead line. Yeah, let's do just that. And with our Ghost Voice. Yeah, that's going to work really well. Alright, we have a bunch of band elements covered already. So we have drums, we have some heavier pads, we have leads, kind of acoustic guitarish. And then some kind of patty stuff and these kind of wobbly ghost notes. So Ghost Voice was the name of the preset, of the name, by the way. What we're going to do next is to find out whether we can play bass with this as well. So let's search for some basses. Right, so I got my basses. As you can see, I'm on the bass and then all. Again, this is so easy to use. It's kind of ridiculous. So bass is all. And let's look for different basses. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Too aggressive for this music. That is really cool though. Is it a bass? Electric bass. I'm gonna go with this one. Alright, and here's how the bass sounds in the mix. Okay, that's good, but I want to have like a deeper bass accompanying this just for the sake of it. So let's create another track. Bass deep. Yeah, there's something called sub bass 1. Nice. This will add some depth to a kind of distorted bass. And as you can see on the screen, the rough song structure is in place. And what's going to happen next is me inviting my sister to sing on this track as well. We're going to do a bunch of vocal layers to take this whole thing to the next level. And before we hear the final result, links to Osmose in the description. This thing is freaking amazing. This is the best keyboard a guitar player could get. So if you're a guitar player but want to expand your horizon, so to speak, this is something to look at. And links and subscribe buttons and ways to support what I do in the description. Thank you so much for watching. You're going to enjoy the end result now.
Teki sinut, hän ei muuta tehnytkään. Heräs aikaisin, otti kynän käteen, rupes siinä piirtämään. Päivä kului, mut hetkeäkään lepoo. Piirtäjä ei kaivannut, aivan niin kuin olis hurmoksessa ollut. Mestari valmisti sut. Se kuva oli kaunis, oi ihme suorastaan. Muodon jumalaisen sai. Kuvan viereen hän merkkasi, ettei suhun päde kuolevaisten lai.